Hey, this is Don with Network Services Group. This is a quick and dirty video about virtualization, specifically virtualization that a small business might use to run their servers. What we do is we help small businesses set up their computers and networks, and more of our customers are asking us about VMware and virtualization. So I'm going to talk about VMware and specifically their ESXI Server product and how that would help and be beneficial to small business customers. So where that would help is, like I said, we deal with small businesses anywhere from a handful of computers up to 25, 30. In some cases, we consult for companies that have more computers than that, 50 or 100, and they call us in on a case-by-case basis. But small businesses probably certainly less than 100, and maybe even 10 to 20, 10 to 30, and how people that are that size can benefit from virtualization. So one way is that most companies, once they get more than a handful of users and a handful of computers, they're going to have a need for different roles on their servers. For instance, I might need to have a file server role, and then someone comes along and decides they want to have a Microsoft Exchange server host all their email internally. So now they get an email server, and then they get a new accounting package in, so they need to have something to hold the data. Sometimes a lot of accounting packages or line of business packages use Microsoft SQL Server, so now they've got a database server, right? And then a bunch of people need to work from home, so now they need to have a terminal server, right, which allows people to work from home. And then to back all of these things up, they might even need a separate backup server. And then if you have a Windows network, you need a domain controller. So you get a primary domain controller going somewhere. And then if you're going to have one of those, you might as well have a backup domain controller to keep the whole thing from crashing. So now we have a whole bunch of servers for a real small company, and it starts to get unmanageable. So, in some cases, these things can be combined. Maybe you can have a small business server with the file and the email all on one, and the domain controller too. But you're still not going to want to have the terminal server all on one, because that's just going to screw things up. And chances are your fancy accounting packages are going to want their own server. So, what you're doing over here with your email and your files aren't going to screw any of this up. And then if you don't have a BDC, which is optional, well, then you're kind of living on the edge there too. So, maybe you'd only have 2 or 3 roles, or maybe you'd have all of these things. So, even if you only have 2 or 3, that's 2 or 3 servers that you have to buy, you have to manage, you have to have hardware contracts on, you have to hope that you don't run out of disk space, RAM, and all that stuff. What virtualization allows you to do is one server, maybe 2, that can pretend to be all of these. It's virtual. So you only have one server to purchase, and it's going to be beefy. It's going to cost a lot more than if you just bought a regular server, because you need to have a fast CPU, you need to have a lot of RAM, and you probably need to have a lot of disk space. But you can have one server, and you can get a virtual operating system like VMware ESXI Server, and that can pretend to be several Windows servers or a Linux server or whatever it is you need. And if 6 months down the road, it turns out you need another database server, as long as you still have capacity on your VMware server, instead of having to buy a whole other server, you can just make another little slice and run VMware. So I'm going to show you real quick. This is our test lab. So as you can see, a number of servers in here. So this could be our file server, an email server, a database server, whatever it may be. In this particular case, we're going to be looking at this one particular machine right here, which, if you come up on the screen, is one machine that is running VMware. It's its own operating system. It boots up to a command line. It doesn't look like much on the screen there, but what I'm going to show you in the other room is basically how this one server here running VMware ESXi pretends to be multiple Windows machines. So a small company could buy one single server, slice it up, and share same disk array, the same memory, the same CPU, and have all their servers virtualized. So let's go take a look in the other room.